Marco had been worried about Marcus ever since the archery incident. He couldn't stop thinking about how he must be feeling, and he wanted to make sure his friend was alright. So one night, he decided to walk over to Marcus's house and check on him. As he entered the house, he noticed that Marcus was sitting very close to the TV screen. He seemed completely fixated on something, and Marco could sense that something was off. He cautiously approached Marcus and asked if he was okay. Marcus slowly turned towards him, and Marco was taken aback by the eerie tone in his friend's voice.
I saw it, Marco.
Marcus said, pointing at the TV screen.
The train. It tried to kill me.
Marco didn't understand what Marcus was talking about, but he could see that his friend was clearly disturbed. He tried to calm him down, but Marcus kept getting more and more agitated. He got up and started walking towards Marco, still talking about the train and how he needed to rule the world. Marco's heart was racing as Marcus cornered him against the wall. His friend's behavior was becoming more and more unsettling, and Marco didn't know what to do. Suddenly, Marcus put his hands on his head and started laughing maniacally. He started talking about how all his thoughts were finally coming together and how he was destined to take over the world. Marco could see that Marcus was completely lost in his delusions, and it scared him.
I need to get you some help, Marcus.
Marco said, trying to calm him down. But Marcus grew angry. He accused Marco of stealing his house and burning it down. Marco tried to explain that it was all just a misunderstanding, that it was McGrawlow who had burned down the house, but Marcus didn't believe him. In a panic, Marco tried to come up with a lie to calm his friend down. He told him that he had received a letter from McGrawlow, confessing to the crime, but Marcus wasn't buying it. Feeling overwhelmed and scared, Marco made a run for it and ran out of the clubhouse. He could hear Marcus's angry voice yelling at him from far away as he made his escape. The next day, Marco was even more nervous as he walked to Marcus's house. A white truck was behind him. He wasn't sure what to expect after their terrifying encounter last night. As he entered the house, Marcus quickly turned towards him. His face was twisted into an angry and eerie expression. Before Marco could even say anything, he heard knocking on the door. Suddenly, a few people burst into the room and grabbed Marcus. Marco could only watch in shock as his friend laughed maniacally while they dragged him outside and into a vehicle. In a daze, Marco realized that they were taking Marcus to a brain farm. It was a facility where people with mental disorders were treated and rehabilitated. Marcus had been losing touch with reality for a while now, and it was finally time for him to get the help he needed. As the truck drove off, Marcus's eerie laughing voice echoed in Marco's mind. He waved nervously at his friend, not knowing what the future held for him. He just hoped that Marcus would be able to find peace and heal at the brain farm. Marcus woke up feeling disoriented, but at the same time, a sense of curiosity and excitement coursed through his body. He couldn't believe that he was actually at a brain farm, a place he had only heard about in stories and rumors. But here he was, in an asylum outfit, running around the dark and mysterious halls of the insane asylum. As he explored, he couldn't help but feel a bit nervous and unsettled. He had never been in an asylum before, and the thought of what kind of people he would encounter sent shivers down his spine. As he wandered around, Marcus stumbled upon a room labeled Therapy. His heart skipped a beat as he nervously peeked inside. To his surprise, it was a meeting room where people gathered to talk about their problems and similar things. Marcus felt relieved that he wouldn't be alone in this unfamiliar place. He found a seat in the back and hesitantly waved at the other people there. That's when he saw an empty chair beside him, and his nerves calmed down a bit. But suddenly, the door burst open, and in walked a mouse in a straitjacket, with a creepy smile and an eerie laugh. Marcus couldn't believe his eyes. He recognized this mouse from the barn, the same one who was always causing trouble and seeking revenge. He never expected to see him in person, and his presence only added to the mysterious and unsettling atmosphere of the asylum. The controller began to speak, and the unknown mouse remained silent with his face censored. Marcus listened as the others spoke about their problems, and when it was his turn, he couldn't help but pour out everything that had been weighing on him, from his colorful accident to McCrawler burning down his house, and even the archery incident that led to him talking to Marco and going insane. The controller listened intently, and Marcus could tell he felt sympathetic towards him. The meeting eventually ended, and as Marcus walked out, he couldn't help but feel a sense of confusion and unease. The others had shared their personal struggles, and he couldn't quite wrap his head around it all. Nighttime fell, and Marcus found himself in the room he was assigned to sleep in. As he tried to process everything that had happened, he couldn't help but feel a sense of happiness and relief. Perhaps he had finally found a place where he belonged. The next morning, Marcus woke up feeling a mix of emotions. He was still a bit confused, but also eager to start his day at the brain farm. Breakfast was different from what he was used to, but he shrugged it off and enjoyed his meal. Afterwards, he met up with the others and they discussed the previous night's meeting. One person mentioned the unknown mouse and what had happened to him when he first arrived at the asylum. Marcus was fascinated by the story and felt a sense of camaraderie with the mouse. As he shared his own experiences, he felt a sense of relief and comfort in knowing that he wasn't alone in his struggles. But it was the afternoon that things went wrong. Marcus saw the blood stains in the hallway, and everything changed. It triggered something deep within him, stirring up memories of his past traumas. He felt his heart race and his palms sweat as he tried to make sense of what was happening. And then it happened. His body went into a state of shock, and Marcus's mind was consumed by a wave of insanity. He laughed uncontrollably, his eyes wide with madness, as he spoke incoherently about the blood. Some of the others in the group were terrified, while others were captivated by his sudden outburst. They didn't know what to do as Marcus's behavior became more and more erratic. In a frenzy, the workers rushed over and took him to the lobotomy room, where they strapped him down and prepared to perform the procedure. The other patients watched in shock and horror as their friend and fellow patient was being subjected to such a drastic and terrifying procedure. But deep down, they couldn't deny the strange fascination they felt towards it all. As the door to the lobotomy room closed, the others were left to wonder what would become of Marcus. Would he ever be the same again? Or would he be one of the many unfortunate souls who lost their sanity at the brain farm? It was a question that lingered in their minds, and one that would haunt them for a long time to come.